Hello, everyone. Welcome to WDHT TV, and this is Off the Cuff. I'm your host, Siham Awada Jaafar. And in the age of COVID-19, so many different things are being processed in a completely different way. We're using different platforms. A lot of virtual platforms are being utilized as well, such as this on Zoom. Usually this would be in our studio, but we are here on Zoom, and we are fortunate enough to have as our guest Judge Hilal Farhat, who is the Wayne County Third Circuit Judge for the Family Division. And we welcome you with open arms, and thank you for everything that you do on a daily basis.
Thank you, Siham, and I appreciate it. And hello, everybody. Thank you for what you do in the community. And I do want to apologize. I have my beard here. I had my wife shave my head for me. I couldn't go to the barber. So otherwise, I'm a little more clean cut. But I appreciate being with you here today.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us, and definitely appreciate you talking to us about the courts and really how they are coping on a virtual level. I know that they're open at a very, very, very minimal. So can you sort of give us an idea of what's happening there, and how the clerks are dealing with things, how the judges are handling the situations?
Of course. So in Wayne County, we're a little bit unique in terms of the quantity of cases that we hear.
Enormous amount.
Right. And as you're aware, Siham, we have different divisions. We're one of the few courts that breaks down our cases into different divisions: the juvenile, the criminal, the civil, and the family. And family is where I sit in, domestic family. Right now, and obviously there's three separate buildings, as you're well aware too. In addition to the different divisions, of course, juvenile has their own building, criminal has their own building at Frank Murphy, and then civil and family. And of course, we have, in addition to our family, we have friend of the court, and they're in a separate building. And
you have is it the Penobscot?
They're Penobscot, right?
Murphy
right.
Hall of Justice, and
friend of the court is at Penobscot. Criminal is at Frank Murphy. Juvenile is at Lincoln Hall of Justice, and civil and family is at the Coleman Young Municipal Center. And so, for us, and the Supreme Court issued an order which was adopted, of course, by our Chief Judge Tim Kenny in our division, and all the divisions, and that is to, of course, keep because we are essential for
keeping the peace.
Correct, considered essential. So we wanted the courts to continue to have functions and to allow people to have some access to the courts. Of course, you got to balance that with protecting people and protecting against the spread of the COVID virus. So in essence, what the court did in Wayne County and others is we limited only to essential and emergency services only. And each division has its own outline of what is considered to be essential and or an emergency. And all that can be found for Wayne County on our website at thirdcc.org. There's a link there to all the orders with respect to each division: family, criminal, civil, and juvenile, and what is deemed to be an emergency, and what is not. Anything that's not deemed an emergency obviously is not an emergency, and everything that's not an emergency, including some trials. And I know, in criminal cases and family cases, and in all the divisions, people are anxious and they want their cases heard, and they want to be before the judge, and they want resolution, and they want finality. But as you stated earlier, the world that we live in today, things are being pushed back. For us in family division, we're pushing everything back about 60 days from the day the court, hopefully, we anticipate. There's nothing certain as of today, but all expectation is that the state of emergency and or the stay-at-home order by the
be
governor will
extended.
remain in place till probably the first week of May or so. Depending on what what the medical experts say, what the results, what the testing shows, improves. Is it going up? Is it going down? So as the way things are heading now, that seems to us to be about the target date. Again, that's fluid and that may change and maybe extended, maybe shortened. Who knows? But that's where the expectations are as of today. And so up until that time, again, we're going to continue to operate on an emergency basis, limited to emergencies only. And for us in family court, of course, we have to handle the personal protection orders. That's essential for us, for any victims of domestic violence or any other litigant who seeks the court's intervention in protecting their persons. And so our PPOs are still in place. You can still go into Wayne County and obtain a PPO. How that pans out in the future, again, we want to be as protective as possible of the public, and so there's talk about maybe closing the court completely, the court that I'm in, the Coleman Young, and allow even PPO filings to be done through email or fax. And so the courts are working on that. And we don't have that capability as of today, but hopefully in the next few, and the court staff and the chief judge, they're all working extremely hard and diligently to get things online so people can have access.
So if somebody needed to file a PPO today, is that a process that it can go forward?
Yes, today you can still go to Wayne County Circuit on the 18th floor.
So you have to go there personally still?
You do as of today. And really the reason why that's the case is not just allowing people access, but we have victim advocates that we want some of the petitioners for PPO to talk to and to be protected and to be safe and given information as to what their rights and obligations and some resources that they can have. So that's very important for us, in addition to obviously the PPO. And so we're trying to get that in place so that if it goes virtual, even the PPO filings, if that goes virtual, then we can still, the victims can still have access to those resources and that kind of help.
And hopefully by the time this goes out, that'll be the case. So what are some of the issues that are not considered an emergency motion and would be like held back? What are some examples of those?
So for us in our division, in family court, anything that involves any financial, child support obligations, that somebody wants to reduce their child support or increase their child support, or even parenting time. Unfortunately, for some may consider to be an emergency. It is not. For us, it's not considered an emergency. However, if there's anything that involves the health, the well-being, the safety, the security of a minor child or a litigant, obviously we take that very serious, and they can come before the court. If a child is being neglected, abused, things like that, they can come before the court on an emergency service, and there's going to be somebody there that will hear the case.
And given our current situation, I mean, safety can come in all different shapes and sizes lately.
Absolutely. I mean, with the quarantine and with what's going on, if somebody wanted to file for divorce, unfortunately, they don't have the ability to do so right now until the courts want, and so
they can go quarantine somewhere else.
And really, so that's a problem. In as much as if two individuals, spouses are residing together and there's issues there, of course, if it gets to the point where there's any sort of violence, then that's an emergency. But if it doesn't get to that point, but there's still anxiety and anxiousness to kind of separate and file for divorce and things like that. Unfortunately, they don't have the ability to do that, and it's hard on people.
Sure. I know you talked a little bit about PPOs, and I had some discussions with some other individuals too in law enforcement, and they're seeing a high number of calls regarding domestic violence, and people are quarantined, they're in their homes, they're in close proximity, and if you don't get along with who you're being quarantined with, it's a very, very, very difficult time, and it's a stress adder to everything that people are dealing with. So are you seeing that in the courts, or is that something that you're not
I don't want to say that there has been an increase in the PPO filings. I don't believe that. There may have been a decrease, but that doesn't mean, as you stated, that domestic violence isn't going on. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on. People are fearful. If I go get a PPO, I can't live in the house. Where am I going to live? Where can I go? Is this the right time? So is it happening? Absolutely, as you indicated. The stress, the uncertainty, the anxiety, the quarantine, the lack of for some people, lack of work. It's all adding to that, increasing that fatality factor. So and again, people are they just don't know. They don't know that they can. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that the courts aren't there for them, or they don't have the ability to go get a PPO and protect themselves. But I can tell you that they certainly have that right and that ability.
So in terms of the family court, and in terms of what you're seeing, parenting time, people who are already divorced, who are having, conflicts, trying to maintain some sort of order in that. What are you seeing the most prevalent right now with this time frame?
Again, so if it's unless it involves an emergency, a threat to somebody's physical or mental health, things are stayed
At a standstill.
and it's at a standstill. And again, it's I can't imagine how hard that is for some of the litigants who do want to go on with their lives and want to want direction and want to take a path. And really right now everything is on a standstill, again, unless it involves physical, mental, child abuse, child health and safety, things like that.
Okay, so let's say it does, and somebody really needs to file something. I know, the clerks, are not all staffed. The judges are not there. How is the court dealing with at least trying to maintain some kind of focus in addressing these major, emergency issues, without putting people in danger and the staff and the judges?
So if somebody has a recognizable emergency, even if they don't, people still can go and file, try to file things in Wayne County Circuit on the second floor. And their filings are brought to an emergency judge. There's always an emergency judge in the court. And that judge makes a determination as to whether that emergency is consistent with what's laid out as an emergency, what the order of emergency is. If the judge deems it to be a true emergency, then basically we give them an approval, or we not necessarily an approval, but we enter an order consistent with whatever the emergency is. So if it's somebody that needs to leave the house, if it's somebody that needs to be protected, if it's a child that needs to be, if custody needs to be granted, or parenting time needs to be granted on a temporary basis, then an order is entered, and so that emergency is dealt with and handled immediately. So no delays or anything like that.
So the physical well-being is
Of course.
is
Of course.
the primary stature of it
As
being
of
tagged as an
yes,
emergency, as
as
it
of
should be.
today, though, anything, again, anything that involves asset or financial or things that that are normal and are very important in any divorce proceeding or in any family proceeding, but as of right now, they are not deemed to be emergencies.
So I know that you're in family court, but let's go to the criminal aspect. What about if there is a major, criminal issue that we're dealing with? And I know, right now, whenever there's an emergency, people get really creative
Yes.
in regards to, taking advantage of others, and even the physical safety of adults in and around the area. How is that being dealt with? Is that being dealt with on a virtual level as well, or on a one-to-one?
It depends. So,
And I know
obviously,
that's sort of outside of your
no. But if there's any criminal activity where the police is involved and somebody's being arrested, that process flows as it should. So it's not the criminals can go out there and go haywire and say there's nobody there. On the contrary, whether it's Wayne County Sheriff or local police here in Dearborn or otherwise, they're doing a wonderful job. Doing their jobs and protecting the community.
county sheriffs are out in full spring as well.
Absolutely. So if something was to happen, a criminal gets arrested, there is an arraignment process. Some of it can be done by, most of it now is being through Zoom. And it's happening as it's supposed to within 72 hours. Defendants are being processed and are being arraigned. And if there's other emergency bond hearings or sentencing or other things again that are deemed emergencies and must take place, criminal court is on. I believe every day there's 2 or 3 criminal judges at Frank Murphy that are handling emergencies and warrants and search warrants and things like that that go on and as normal.
That's good to hear. I know that there's been a lot of cases too that have been confirmed within the justices' buildings. Have they paid attention to that in terms of?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, we had some of the Wayne County Sheriff deputies, several of them in several of the buildings that were tested positive. And what we did is anybody who came in contact, the chief judge and administration spoke to whoever was informed the courts that they tested positive, and we tried to get a hold of whoever they were in contact with and the courtrooms that they were in, and so everybody was asked to be quarantined, and the courtrooms were
disinfected.
Professionally came in and disinfected the hallways, the elevators. So, and that's part of the reason too that we want to try to do everything virtually. Again, the safety of the public, the safety of the deputies, the clerks, everybody in the legal system, the attorneys, the litigants.
Right, the attorneys coming in to have to file too.
Everybody. So it's again, this is unprecedented. So it's a day-by-day process. Every day, new information comes and new methods and new challenges that come that we have to deal and we have to focus on and pivot and shift and learn and adjust, I guess, to everyday challenges. And so it's an ongoing thing, unfortunately.
So what would be your constructive advice to people out there who are having issues and really don't know what to do at this point?
Again, it's tough. People just kind of have to stay patient, try to stay sane, try to stay active. If there is any, again, threats or physical violence or harm or threat of harm, you do have a remedy. You do have a court that's open. You have, whether it's police involvement or going in and trying to get a PPO, those remedies are available for everybody in Wayne County and beyond. And I don't know if you know, Sam, but in Michigan, whether you live in Wayne County or you live in the UP, you can actually go to any county and obtain a PPO. You don't have to live in that particular county for you to get a PPO from that county. So let's just say somebody is from Oakland County and left a significant other or a spouse and move to Wayne County. They can certainly go. They don't have to wait any time. There's no residency requirement or anything like that. They can go to Wayne County and obtain a PPO, and vice versa. So again, this will pass. If somebody needs help, there's certainly a path for help.
That's very comforting to know. Thank you so much for being with us, for giving us your time and your knowledge. And I think really just clarifying so many different issues that people may have had in regards to, making sure that they're safe in that regard. So thank you so much, Judge Helal, Farhat.
Always good to see you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And again, hopefully we'll see each other face to face.
Absolutely. Very soon, I hope. Very soon, I hope. And thank you all for joining us. I hope you found this very informative. I sure did. I want to thank my guest, Judge Helal Farhat from the 3rd District Court here in Wayne County. Also want to thank all the first responders, the healthcare workers, our legal system, our law enforcement, everyone out there who's really working hard. We're all staying in place to make a difference and to do our part. But these people are on the front lines trying to make things better for all of us, and we send them our heartfelt appreciation along with the judge and his colleagues and everybody out there. Thank you all. Please be safe. Make sure you wash your hands. I touched my face a couple of times, but I washed them really good before we actually came on. And of course, I am sheltering in place as everyone else needs to do. Thank you for joining us today. God bless and stay safe.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.